Welcome to tonight's Let's Talk Preteen session, dedicated to looking at life with our 9 to 12-year-olds. My name's Emma Stevens. I'm from the Safety and Resilience Consultancy, and with my colleague Chloe Pope, we're going to be facilitating, if I can get my words out, tonight's session. And this session's been commissioned and supported by the Community Safety Partnership. And our Safety and Resilience Consultancy is a partnership which was set up to support you with the challenges of looking after your children and young people. So you may have joined tonight as you've attended our previous sessions, so welcome back. And you may already know the format of tonight, but for anyone new joining us, a very warm welcome. And I just quickly want to go over a few guidelines. So due to the large volume of us in the platform, it can make this IT a little bit temperamental. So you'll see that your cameras and your mics are muted. This does also mean that unfortunately, Chloe and I cannot respond to any raised hands during the session. But the chat bar is open, so please do put any comments or questions in. This is a great way for supporting each other. For example, if you've used a service or you have some tools and strategies that worked for you, please do share the information with us all. However, we all know that every family is different. So because something worked for you doesn't mean that it will work for someone else, and vice versa. Sometimes it can be difficult for Chloe and I to present tonight's session and give appropriate answers. There may be a question that needs a little more thought rather than a quick public reply. If that's the case, please be sure we won't be ignoring your question and we will respond by email to you. Please be respectful of each other, and for confidentiality reasons, please do not give names or identifying features of children or young people. Tonight's session will be recorded, but please be assured that no names or messages in the chat will be displayed. If you are watching this recording, please be aware that due to copyright, some of the clips might not play for you. And again, we're going to send these links out in an email to you. CPD certificates are available should you want one, so please email Claire. And finally, our toolkit that accompanies these sessions will be shared with you again via email. So some of the content that we shared tonight may be difficult for you to hear. As with every week, we can't apologise for this because it's important that you know what your children are facing. But one positive of being at home and listening remotely to us on your sofa is that you can mute us, you can take a break, and when you return, we may have moved on. This is a great way of looking after yourselves. We all know that being responsible for small humans is hard work, and to do a good job of this, you do need to look after yourselves. So tonight's discussions, we're going to take a look at the following. If you came last week, you'll be pleased to know that this week is not as graphic, but it's still as important. We're going to start by looking at how online risks become physical risks. But we're going to look at the safety planning around this. We're going to look at some mental health difficulties, and we're going to end on a positive note with some self-care strategies. And if you just think for a minute about how many of your children own a mobile phone, how many of them have access to a tablet or a laptop, how many of them play online games, have WhatsApp, Snapchat, do dances with their friends on TikTok, how many of them do their homework online through class charts or they watch YouTube? These questions could go on and on and on. So the point here of tonight's session is that children are exposed to the online world really early on. And actually, most of the time, that's not a bad thing. You know, I quite often feel better as a parent knowing that if my children are away from me, that I can contact them or see where they are via the use of various apps. And the internet does improve our lives, doesn't it, in so many ways. But with that, it also brings risks and dangers to our children that simply did not exist 20, 10 years, or even a year ago. It's really hard to keep up with what's happening and what those risks might be. But as parents and carers, we can't merely put our heads in the sand and ignore what may or may be happening just because we don't understand it. Teaching online safety and having these conversations needs to start as soon as your child goes online. You know, we see lots of children in pushchairs holding their parents' phones or watching children's tablets. They're probably just watching something perfectly innocent on YouTube. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but still those safety measures have got to be there. So we could easily spend a whole day looking at internet safety, but all we're going to do tonight is start by walking through some of the most common sites that you and your children might be accessing. Chloe.
Thank you, Emma, and good evening, everyone. So like Emma said, let's start with some online safety, and let's make a start especially on social media. So social media, if your child doesn't already have a few social media sites, expect them to start asking you for one soon. As we know, more than 50% of children under the age of 13 have at least one social media account. We've seen a real rise in social media over the past kind of 10 to 15 years, and we've also seen their popularity really continue to grow. So what really is the attraction? Well, of course, social media does have many positives. It allows us to connect with other people. It allows us to share positive moments. It can help us to feel supported. It can help us stay up to date on what's going on in the world. And that could be things like latest news stories to things like celebrity drama, for example. It's also now a real booming career. So think influencers, think social media stars, social media coordinators, advertising, marketing, the list really does go on and on. It also can be a real escape, especially for children and young people, especially when they're home from a busy day at school and just want to sit on their phones and unwind and switch off from the day. However, it is, of course, important that as parents and carers, we're also aware of its negatives. Social media can make other people's lives seem perfect, which can leave our young people questioning their own lives and making unhealthy comparisons with other people. Social media can also be a negative space if a child is being bullied, for example, as this could allow the bullies to continue this bullying outside of school and bring that bullying into the home. There's also, of course, the safety element. You can pretty much attempt to contact with anyone online, which can leave children vulnerable to things like grooming, which we will come back to later tonight. And as Emma said, social media can be really difficult for us as parents and carers, as there's so much to keep up to date with. There's always a new social media site, there's always a new site becoming popular, and there's always changes being made to those existing social media sites, which can leave us as parents feeling a little bit in the dark. So tonight, we're really going to be focusing on the most common sites that children and young people tend to gravitate towards. And we're going to go through a few easy steps to help ensure privacy, safety, and what to do if it does become a problem. So firstly, let's start with Instagram. So the age restriction of Instagram is 13. However, we do of course know that a lot of children will open an Instagram account much younger than this. So some important things to note about Instagram. So Instagram primarily consists of users sharing photos and videos or reels, which is what Instagram calls these kind of short videos. Instagram allows users to also post on their story. So a story will last for 24 hours, or they can post on their grid, which will stay there until it's been deleted. So talking about Instagram with your young person should primarily involve discussions about appropriate and safe images and videos that are shared. So think about going back to those basics when they share an image or make a video that they want to put online, making sure that there's no identifying information about them. So think about things like no school uniform or an indication as to where they may live. Think about privacy. If an Instagram profile isn't private, any user of Instagram can see that profile. And Instagram has 1 billion users worldwide. So that's an awful lot of people who could access any images or videos. When setting up an Instagram profile, it will ask you if you want to be public or private. However, if your child already has an Instagram and you're unsure, just go to their profile. So on their device, once they're logged in, go onto their profile, then go to settings and privacy. There'll be a really easy option just to make their account private. So really quick and easy. We do, of course, recognise that young people often won't want to block the person who is being unkind to them, as that other person would likely to be aware that they had been blocked. So Instagram have recently added a really great feature to overcome this, which gives the option to restrict certain users. So if you were to restrict someone on Instagram, it means that no one else apart from you would be able to see the person's comments on your posts. Their messages will go into a message request folder, and they won't be able to see if you're online or if you have read their messages. So this feature is a really good one to use if your young person feels that they need a little bit of space from someone else, as well as those more serious worries such as bullying. So to restrict a user on Instagram, go to their profile, press the 3 dots, and the restrict option will be under this menu. So next up, TikTok. So TikTok exclusively consists of people sharing videos. Most of the videos are under 1 minute, but you are now able to share much longer videos on there. However, you will find that most of them are under 1 minute or even potentially under 30 seconds. So some young people will have TikTok purely to watch other people's videos, and they may never post their own TikTok. So be aware of the content that they're consuming on this app. You don't have to follow people on the TikTok app. TikTok will just learn the kind of type of videos that you enjoy and will show you more of this. So it's really important to note that if your child doesn't enjoy a video, they can hold down on the screen when the video is playing, and then they can press not interested. So this will also give them the option to report the video if it's inappropriate. But if they press not interested, TikTok will learn that they don't like videos of that nature. Your child might, though, of course, decide to post their own TikTok videos. And again, if their profile isn't private, their videos could be watched by anyone on TikTok. And that's because their video could pop up when scrolling on the TikTok app on anyone's phone, despite that person potentially not following them. Again, with TikTok, it will ask you if you want your profile to be private when you first set up the account. But if not, you can go to the 3-line icon on the top right and then settings, then privacy, and there'll be an option to make the profile private. So coming on to Snapchat, our final social media that I'm going to talk about in detail tonight. So the Snapchat age limit is 13 as well. Snapchat also involves photos or videos and has lots of different functions, but it is most popular for sending these directly to other users rather than sharing them to a wider audience. That is something that can be achieved on Snapchat as well, but it's primarily most popular for directly sending those images or videos to friends. So here with Snapchat, discussions should really be around the importance of making sure that your young person knows the person that they're sending photos and videos to and know who they're receiving those videos from. So to block someone on Snapchat, you would need to tap on the Added Me section on the profile screen, tap their name, tap the wheel icon next to their name, and then press block. So this will prevent that user from sending you any snaps or chats or from viewing your content. We focus a little bit more on the sharing of photos and things like that in our teen sessions, but don't be fooled into thinking that younger children cannot be subjected to inappropriate photos, etc. online. Again, having those open conversations early and having all the safety features in place will mean that your child will discuss anything that worries you, but that worries them, and will be more likely to do that. There are also, of course, plenty of other sites, including Twitter, which is now called X, BeReal, YouTube, WhatsApp, Facebook. The list really does go on and on. But with pretty much all social media sites, there will always be a help button somewhere. So if you are concerned about your child's safety on that site, make sure to click on that button and it will provide you and your child with lots of information about safety and the safety features of that particular social media site. And again, all of the popular social media sites have the function to block users. So make sure you and your young person know how to do this right from the beginning in case it is ever needed. But as Emma said at the start of tonight's session, sites and apps get updated constantly. And so the information that we give you tonight may well be outdated by next month. So we recommend that you take a note of these 2 websites on your screen now. Do feel free to screenshot this slide if you want to. So the best way to keep up to date regularly is by using these 2 sites. So the CEOP site from the National Crime Agency provides up-to-date information and also lets you send them intel about anything that may be a crime. Lots of information for you and your child. It's a good site to explore together. So the CEOP site is the top one, thank you, no. And then we've got Internet Matters, the bottom site. Internet Matters is also a really useful site. They have a great fake news quiz that you and your family can do together. I know that one of those clips totally fooled me. So we're sure that most of you are sitting here tonight feeling quite confident that you have plenty of internet safety going on and that your children are quite safe. If you were with us last week, you will have heard that generally we're all about kind of 6 clicks away from accessing hardcore pornography. It doesn't take much, and online groomers and criminals are very practiced and clever at what they do. So we want to show you this quick clip now. It's around 8 minutes long, but we'd like you to watch it and think about whether this could happen to your family and how conversations you have now could prevent it.
Emma's brother. Come on, hubby.
Where is Niall?
He's at home with some pizza.
So I am sure that you're all sat there thinking in your heads about your own family life and how you might have prevented some of what was happening in that video. And a lot of things we talk about around risk, you may not think applies to your family because your children are younger, but we cannot stress enough how important prevention is and how important it is to make your children aware of those who might try to groom and exploit them online. So, as we know, grooming happens when someone takes advantage of another person by persuading them to do and think things that they would not otherwise do. But as well as thinking about this in terms of sexual grooming, like we've just seen, this can also include encouraging someone to develop support for extremist ideas, such as political or religious ideas. And the person who's being groomed may be encouraged to feel anger or intolerance towards other people, groups, or communities. So we talk about people becoming radicalised. So they may come to believe that actions need to be taken to advance their ideas. So, for example, your child might be encouraged to beat someone up at school who is from a different religion or a different political group. And in very extreme cases, they may come to support terrorist activity. And your children are easy targets. They can be targeted through the internet, through social media, and through online gaming sites. It literally can happen to anybody. So just to raise your awareness of this, we want to share a quick clip with you now from Safer Devon Partnership to Prevent project. If you also have a look at the Safer Devon website, it's got some really great links on there to other useful support avenues around this.
Hiya.
All right, mate. It's me. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay.
How you feeling about tomorrow?
Yeah, fine.
Come on. Remember who you are. You're not a loser anymore.
Who even are you?
You're a total loser.
Everyone doubted you. You should be so proud with how far you've come. This is your moment, mate.
This behaviour is unacceptable in class. What's going on?
We're here for you. We're your real family, yeah?
You listen to me. I can really talk to you guys.
You spend too much time on that screen.
Don't you walk away from me.
You guys have got me here. Everyone else have just let me down.
Because you're one of us. We really believe in you, mate.
Thank you.
Be strong. Remember everything we've been through and taught you. You make us proud tomorrow, right? So are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna do this.
So this radicalisation can happen over anything from a few days to several years. And the signs are similar to any kind of online grooming that we've talked about previously. And our caveat around all these signs is always some of this is normal preteen behaviour. It's changes in your young person's behaviour that you need to be looking out for. So things like, are they becoming more secretive, especially around internet use? You know, is that laptop closed as soon as you come in the room? Are they flicking to another screen as soon as you walk in? Are they spending increasing amounts of time communicating with friends that they've met online? So not physical friends, friends that they've never met in the real world. Are they becoming more isolated from family and old friends? Are they developing a fixation on a particular subject? So are they suddenly asking strange questions that you wouldn't normally be expecting them to know about? Are they expressing some intolerance or some hatred of other people or communities? Are they changing their appearance to reflect association with a different kind of community or cause? And are they expressing thoughts about harming or using violence towards others? So when someone becomes involved in radicalisation, it can endanger their safety and welfare, and also the safety and welfare of those around them. So again, by intervening really early and just being aware of this, you can ensure that you and they receive support and have the knowledge to keep everybody safe. So before we move on to safety planning, we just want to get you all thinking about one more subject, really. And it's on your screen now. We're just going to talk for a minute about toxic masculinity. We could have considered this topic in last week's session as well, because it's obviously it's not only an online issue, but it's also a real physical and emotional risk. So if you just take a look at some of the words on your screen now, there's some very familiar phrases here, aren't they? So we just want you to think for a minute, about whether you've used these sayings or thought about the impact on some of these words. So toxic masculinity is an attitude or set of social guidelines that are stereotypically associated with manliness. Yet they often have a negative effect, not only on women and society, but also that real negative impact on men. Because toxic masculinity involves pressure for boys and men to behave in certain ways. That idea that men need to act tough and avoid showing all emotions can be really harmful to boys' mental health and have serious consequences for everybody. Just think about those phrases now that are on your screen, how often you use them, how often you hear them, and the message that that is giving to our young children. Toxic masculinity isn't about behaving like a man. It's that extreme pressure that some young people may feel to act in a way that's actually harmful. It really glorifies those unhealthy habits. It's the notion that self-care is for girls. And boys, for example, should treat their bodies like machines by skimping on sleep because that makes them really hard, working out even when they're injured, and really pushing themselves to physical limits, telling them to get up if they get knocked down in a sports game and not complaining if they're hurt. And in addition to pushing themselves hard physically, this toxic masculinity discourages boys from expressing emotions, ever showing anything that could be seen as a weakness. And through this, young boys really learn to suppress their feelings, and this can lead to them not making the same close friendships that we see girls at this age having them. And it does lead our boys, it puts them at real risk of having some of the mental health difficulties that we're going to look at later on tonight. It really does stop them asking for help, and it really impacts on those large figures we see around suicide in our boys and young men. And another major impact of this toxic masculinity way of thinking is the way that some boys believe that this is then the correct way to treat women and girls. We refuse to put up a photo of him, but we're just going to mention briefly the criminal and social influencer Andrew Tate. I'm sure most of you have heard of him, and I'm pretty sure that many of your children will have. So Andrew Tate is a former kickboxer who turned into an influencer. Thankfully, he's now banned from most social media sites, which is primarily where he shared his views. So he shared these views on the internet, primarily surrounding how he thought that women were the property of men, women should take accountability for rape, and he discussed many, many abusive ways that he would have sex with and control women, including physical violence. Now, some of you are sitting here likely to be thinking, why would anybody take this man seriously? But previously, the Andrew Tate hashtag on TikTok had over 11 billion views. So Andrew Tate's a very wealthy man. Some, particularly young boys, our young teenage boys in particular, may view Andrew Tate as being really cool. He's got fast cars, a really desirable lifestyle. He's a wealthy man with a cool life. He's telling teenagers and younger children that it's okay to slap women and force them into sex. And what message is that giving to our preteens? It's really worrying stuff. As I said, he's now been banned, but the information he shared is still easily accessible out there. And there are a lot more Andrew Tates out there and a lot more to come. These are people with a huge platform, spreading very worrying messages to very impressionable young people. We can't stop all the Andrew Tates in the world. As you've seen tonight, there are all kinds of ways that people with extreme views will target your children. And we know that this is something not only for parents of girls to worry about, but also for parents and carers of boys. Young boys like yours are the victims of this toxic masculinity. And as parents and carers, we're in the front line of trying to protect them from this and also change the way we think about it. So yes, we need to have conversations about safety on social media, but we can also have a massive influence on how we talk and how we think about toxic masculinity at home. So we're just going to play a short clip now, just to show you how much influence you actually do have at home.
It's okay.
You got it? Pick it up with your big, strong muscles and bring it over here to the shop.
Boys can be loving.
Fast, 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 fast.
I need you to be brave, okay? Gotta go.
Boys can be shy. Boys can be sad.
Why are you crying?
Boys don't cry, honey. Be a big boy, please.
Boys can be self-conscious. Boys can be intelligent.
Why is it always about using
But boys can't be afraid. Boys can't be gentle.
I don't understand what the big deal is. I mean, isn't this just boys being boys?
Boys can't be weak. Boys can't be timid. Boys can't be hurt. Boys can't look soft. Boys can't be powerless. Because boys don't cry.
It's a real thought-provoking clip, that one, isn't it? So we have another clip coming up for you now. It's a great TED Talk by somebody called Tony Porter. However, it is a really difficult watch and it does talk about some issues such as rape. So please do mute us if you think it might be a difficult watch for you. It is about 7 minutes long, so go make a cup of tea and come back again if you want to. It is a tough watch, but it's a really, really good watch. So this is Tony Porter.
So I grew up in New York City, between Harlem and the Bronx. Growing up as a boy, we was taught that men had to be tough, had to be strong, had to be courageous, dominating, no pain, no emotions, with the exception of anger and definitely no fear. That men are in charge, which means women are not. That men lead, and you should just follow and just do what we say. That men are superior, women are inferior. That men are strong, women are weak. That women are of less value, property of men, and objects, particularly sexual objects. I've later come to know that to be the collective socialization of men, better known as the man box. See, this man box has in it all the ingredients of how we define what it means to be a man. Now, I also want to say, without a doubt, there are some wonderful, wonderful, absolutely wonderful things about being a man. Well, at the same time, there's some stuff that's just straight up twisted. And we really need to begin to challenge, look at it, and really get in the process of deconstructing, redefining what we come to know as manhood. This is my two at home, Kendall and Jade. They're 11 and 12. Kendall's 15 months older than Jade. There's a period of time, you know, when my wife, her name is Tammy, and we just got real busy and whip, whip, bit, bam, boom, Kendall and Jade. Right? And when they were about 5 and 6, 4 and 5, you know, Jade could come to me. It didn't matter, come to me crying, you know. It didn't matter what she was crying about. She can get on my knees, she can snot my sleeve up, just cry it out, Daddy got you, that's all that's important. Now Kendall, on the other hand, and like I said, he's only 15 months older than her, he come to me crying. It's like soon as I would hear him crying, a clock would go off. You know, I would give the boy probably about 30 seconds, which means by the time he got to me, I was already saying things like, why you crying? Hold your head up, look at me, explain to me what's wrong, tell me what's wrong, I can't understand you while you're crying. And out of my own frustration of my role and responsibility of building him up as a man to fit into these guidelines and these structures that are defining this man box, I would find myself saying things like, just go in your room. Just go on in your room, sit down, get yourself together, and come back and talk to me when you could talk to me like a what? Like a man. And he's 5 years old. And you know, as I grow in life, I would say to myself, my God, what's wrong with me? What am I doing? You know, why would I do this? And I think back to my father. There was a time in my life where we had a very troubled experience in our family. My brother Henry, he died tragically when we was teenagers. We lived in New York City, as I said, we lived in the Bronx at the time. And the burial was a place called Long Island. It was about 2 hours outside of the city. And as we were preparing to come back from the burial, you know, the cars stopped at the bathroom, you know, to let folks take care of themselves before the long ride back to the city. And the limousine empties out. My mother, my sister, my auntie, they all get out, but my father and I stayed in the limousine. And no sooner than the women got out, he burst out crying. He didn't want to cry in front of me, but he knew he wasn't going to make it back to the city. It was better me than to allow himself to express these feelings and emotions in front of the women. And this is a man who 10 minutes ago had just put his teenage son in the ground. Something I just can't even imagine. The thing that sticks with me the most is that he was apologizing to me for crying in front of me. And at the same time, he was also giving me props, lifting me up for not crying. You know, I come to also look at this as this fear that we have as men, this fear that just have us paralyzed, holding us hostage to this man box. I can remember speaking to a 12-year-old boy, a football player, and I asked him, I said, how would you feel if in front of all the players, your coach told you you were playing like a girl? Now, I expected him to say something like, I'll be sad, I'll be mad, I'll be angry, or something like that. No, the boy said to me, it would destroy me. And I said to myself, God, if it would destroy him to be called a girl, what are we then teaching him about girls? It took me back to a time when I was about 12 years old. I grew up in tenement buildings, you know, in the inner city, and at this time we're living in the Bronx. And in the building next to where I lived, there was a guy named Johnny. He was about 16 years old, and we were all about 12 years old, younger guys, and he was hanging out with all us younger guys. And this guy, he was up to a lot of no good. He was the kind of kid where parents would have to wonder, what is this 16-year-old boy doing with these 12-year-old boys? And he did spend a lot of time up to no good. He was a troubled kid. You know, his mother had died from a heroin overdose. He was being raised by his grandmother. His father wasn't on the set. His grandmother had 2 jobs. He was home alone a lot. But I gotta tell you, we young guys, we looked up to this dude, man. He was cool. He was fine. That's what his sister said. He was fine, right? He was having sex. You know, we all looked up to him. So one day I'm out in front of the house doing something, just playing around, doing something, I don't know what. He looks out his window, he calls me upstairs. He said, hey, Amp, they called me Anthony growing up as a kid. Hey, Anthony, come on upstairs. Johnny called, you go. So I run right upstairs. As he opens the door, he says to me, do you want some? Now, I immediately knew what he meant, because for me growing up at that time and our relationship with this man box, do you want some meant one or two things, sex or drugs. And we weren't doing drugs. Now, my box, my card, my man box card was immediately in jeopardy. 2 things. One, I never had sex. We don't talk about that as men. You only tell your dearest, closest friends, sworn secrecy for life, the first time you had sex. For everybody else, we go around like we've been having sex since we was 2. There ain't no first time. The other thing I couldn't tell him is that I didn't want any. You know, that's even worse. We're supposed to always be on the prowl. Women are objects, especially sexual objects. So anyway, I couldn't tell him any of that. So like my mother would say, make a long story short, I just simply said to Johnny, yes. He told me go in his room. I go in his room, on his bed is a girl from the neighborhood named Sheila. She's 16 years old, she's nude. She is what I know today to be mentally ill, higher functioning at times than others. We had a whole choice worth, you know, inappropriate names for her. But anyway, Johnny had just gotten through having sex with her. Well, he actually raped her, but he would say he had sex with her because while Sheila never said no, she also never said yes. So he was offering me the opportunity to do the same. So when I go in the room, I close the door. Folks, I'm petrified. I stand with my back to the door so Johnny can't bust in the room and see that I'm not doing anything. And I stand there long enough that I could have actually done something. So now I'm no longer trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get out of this room. So in my 12 years of wisdom, I zip my pants down, I walk out into the living room, and lo and behold to me, while I was in the room with Sheila, Johnny was back at the window calling guys up. So now it's a living room full of guys, like, you know, like the waiting room in the doctor's office. And they asked me, how was it? And I say to them, it was good. And I zip my pants up in front of them, and I head for the door. Now, I say this all with remorse, and I was feeling a tremendous amount of remorse at that time, but I was conflicting. Because while I was feeling remorse, I was excited, because I didn't get caught, but I knew I felt bad about what was happening. This fear of getting outside the man box totally enveloped me. It was way more important to me about me and my man box card than about Sheila and what was happening to her. See, collectively, we as men are taught to have less value in women, to view them as property and the objects of men. We see that as an equation that equals violence against women. We as men, good men, the large majority of men, we operate on the foundation of this whole collective socialization. We kind of see ourselves separate, but we're very much a part of it. You see, we have to come to understand that less value, property, and objectification is the foundation, and the violence can't happen without it. So we're very much a part of the solution as well as the problem. The Centers for Disease Control says that men's violence against women is at epidemic proportions. It's the #1 health concern for women in this country and abroad. So quickly, I'd like to just say, this is my love of my life, my daughter Jade. The world I envision for her. How do I want men to be acting and behaving? I need you on board. I need you with me. I need you working with me and me working with you on how we raise our sons and teach them to be men. That it's okay to not be dominating. That it's okay to have feelings and emotions. That it's okay to promote equality. That it's okay to have women who are just friends and that's it. That it's okay to be whole. That my liberation as a man is tied to your liberation as a woman. I remember asking a 9-year-old boy, what would life be like for you if you didn't have to adhere to this man box? He said to me, I would be free. Thank you, folks.
Okay, so a really powerful video there about toxic masculinity. I'm going to move us on a little bit now to talking about online safety, following on from questions around social media. So as always, conversation and preparation really is the key, and it is absolutely never too early to start these discussions. A lot of primary schools will be having conversations with young people, and as parents and carers, finding out what other parents are doing is also really useful. On your screen now is a blank online safety plan that you can use with your children to start opening up that conversation. This is a screenshot of it taken from our toolkit, which you will get a copy of after tonight, so don't worry about taking a screenshot of this one. You can use it as a checklist to ensure that your children's profiles are as private as possible, and it also explores the ideas of what they could do or who they could tell if they ever did feel unsafe online. The concern for both parents and young people to be aware of is the digital footprint that we all leave. This is the idea that whatever we post on social media is then out there for others to view and others to comment on. Unless it is deleted, it is likely that what we post on there will be on the internet for the rest of our lives and beyond. And unless our profiles are private, literally anyone with access to the internet could see it, which is estimated to be around 5 billion people. We are now really regularly hearing of people being cancelled due to mistakes that they have made on the internet many, many years ago. We mainly hear about influencers or celebrities missing out on job opportunities or having to leave reality shows, for example, early due to previous tweets or comments that they made. So talk to your children about this. Tell them who got kicked out of I'm a Celebrity early because of tweets that they posted 10 years ago. Try and help them link this to their life too. We do know that employers will now often Google applicants to view their digital footprint, or they might also be Googled by future friends that they meet online at their new secondary school, for example. The point is that their digital footprint will be there for everyone to see if they're not private. So let's try and help them recognise the importance of what they are sharing, making sure that what they're sharing is positive, or at the very least, not offensive. We know that young people think that they are very savvy online and often think that they know more than we do. Yes, sometimes they do, but they do not see risk in the way that we do. So use that to your advantage. Get your young person involved with your internet safety. Ask them to help make your social media profiles private. This is role modelling to them how you behave appropriately online. You probably already know how to do that, but act dumb. This may spark a conversation between the both of you about the importance of online safety and give you that opportunity for you to ask them about their online safety and online security. Also encourage your young person to stop and think before they post and show them that you do this too. Let's all try and ask ourselves if our comment is constructive before we post. Let's not hide behind our profile pictures, and let's help our young people to realise that social media absolutely is not anonymous. As we just said, remind your young person that their online reputation will stay with them for a very long time, maybe even the rest of their life. So if you wouldn't say something to someone's face, don't say it to them online. This is a great opportunity for role modelling. Your children will copy what you do, so do try and be a good example. If you want them to come away from a screen and be present, you also need to be doing the same. No phones in the bedrooms, but also you need to be doing the same. So just a funny quick clip just to remind you of this.
Oh, it's so nice to all be sitting down together. You can tell me something they did today.
I drew a horsey.
Good for you, son.
I started smoking.
I love you too, sweetheart.
I'm selling bongs out of our minivan.
I got a tramp stamp.
I'm getting implants.
I'm dating your brother.
Uh-huh.
I'm cooking meth in the basement.
Great idea, kiddo. That's why you're so popular at school.
Oh, it's so...
So now we are encouraging them to think before they post or decide on who to interact with. Let's break it down that little bit more. So we've got a bit of an acronym here on your screens. So starting with S, will this impact on my safety? So things that could impact on their safety include sharing basic details about themselves, such as their address or bank card details. Or it could be speaking to someone that they don't know too well online, who is potentially looking to harm them. Thinking about whether they have school uniforms in photos. Is there a picture of the road and the house that they live in? And could your child be identified by a stranger from a photo? Then we've got anyone else. So will this impact on anyone else negatively? This might include unkind or hurtful posts. Even if they are in a group photo or tagged in something, they then become part of potential bullying. We've seen of instances of WhatsApp groups called, for example, "We hate such and such," and your child may be part of one of these groups. Could this impact on my future? This would again include unkind or derogatory posts online, which may come back to hurt them in the future. So would they want future friends, future teachers? Would they want future employers seeing these things? And finally, will it impact on my emotions? For example, would it be a good idea for them to follow someone on social media who makes them feel bad about themselves? Probably not. We all feel the pressure of social media at times, and we can rationalise this a little bit more than our children can. So good conversations about feeling good on social media really do need to be had. The key message to take away from this is that the internet can be both a great place and an awful place, and we need to help our young people to navigate it, even if they really do know more about it than we do. We might need to help them to create those healthy boundaries and support them with knowing what to do if it really does all go wrong. So moving a little bit away now from internet safety, we're going to be thinking a little bit about mental health. So we're going to be thinking about this because around 75% of all mental health problems are established by the age of 18 years old. We all, of course, want our children to be stress-free and happy all of the time, but life doesn't quite work like that, and there will be times where your children really are feeling that strain. There could be worries about some of the subjects we've covered, like bullying or friendships. There could be puberty worries around body changes and image. They could also be worried about you and what's happening at home. And if they're not already, soon your young person will be experiencing hormone changes as they enter their teen years. But there is also a lot of pressures on them, including peer pressure and academic pressure. So there really is a lot going on for them that may trigger mental health difficulties. So really do keep an eye out, especially over these next few years. There are over 200 classified forms of mental health difficulties. However, the most common mental health difficulties that we see in young people are ADHD, depression, anxiety, and conduct problems, which are linked to disruptive and violent behaviour. However, other common mental health difficulties in young people include eating disorders and self-harm related behaviours. Of course, each mental health difficulty will have their own set of signs and symptoms, but it would be absolutely impossible to cover all of them in tonight's session. So instead, we've included some signs and symptoms that are often seen in several mental health difficulties. But please do remember that you know your child best and you will know what may be out of character for them. So, changes in school performance, do they suddenly seem much less motivated to go to or to engage with schoolwork? Are you seeing negative self-talk? Do they frequently talk negatively about themselves, maybe calling themselves ugly, fat, or being very harsh on themselves if they get lower than expected grades? Are you seeing a withdrawal from socialization? Did they used to want to go and spend most of their free time with their friends, but now seem totally disinterested in leaving the house? Do they have any ongoing sleep difficulties or lack of energy? Are they struggling to get off to sleep or maybe even stay asleep? And do they present as very tired and maybe lacking in that motivation? Do they have trouble concentrating? And that could either be at school or equally at home. Are you seeing changes in their behaviour? This is very general, and remember that our young people's behaviour will change as they go through puberty. So here we're thinking about those very dramatic, sudden changes in behaviour. Are they very suddenly closed off after always being so open? Do they have a really short temper every single day? Are you seeing things like frequent stomach aches and sickness? As we know, mental health can often present with physical symptoms. So if there's absolutely no other explanation for their frequent stomach aches and sickness, it could be a sign of anxiety, for example. However, please, please, please do remember that a lot of these signs and symptoms really are common behaviours. Not wanting to do their homework or not wanting to spring out of bed in the morning is, of course, very normal in those early teenage years. However, the key really is here, are you seeing several of these symptoms in combination? Also remember that mental health difficulties often emerge really quite slowly over time. So you're unlikely to see that very sudden change in lots of these areas unless something else is going on, for example, bullying. So let's watch another very short video now to hear about how we can support our young people with their mental health.
This film is about mental health, talking about it and listening to others.
Mental health is about our feelings, our thinking, our emotions, and our moods. Everybody knows how to look after physical health, but looking after our mental health is just as important because you can't see it, you need to talk about it.
Good morning, Afia.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Kai.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Sid.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Sophie.
Good morning, Miss.
Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Miss.
This film is all about Jay and us. We're her friends. We're all 10 or 11 years old.
All in the same school, live in the same area, but we're all very different to each other.
We all have different feelings every day. They come and go.
You can feel excited,
Silly, angry, nervous, grumpy, confused, lonely, happy, confident.
These are small feelings that we all have every day. What can we do when small feelings are bothering us?
I like KFC, or I like going in the bath. I would probably write it down. You'll feel it's out of you and on the paper. I usually read a book, so I can just escape into the book and then my worries are behind me. When I feel stressed, I usually just turn a shower on and sing in the shower. Just like sit down and play on my favourite video game, really. You could count until you don't feel stressed.
Sometimes we can have big feelings and they don't go away. Big feelings can affect our mental health.
Big feelings can stop us getting on with our lives. They can change how well we feel, how we behave, how we see the world, and how we get on with other people.
Some of Jay's feelings stayed too long, and they got too big for her to manage on her own.
What's wrong with Jay? She's usually mature and good at getting her work done.
How are big feelings affecting Jay?
Am I in a jungle? Am I in the sea? My head is going crazy. Will you come and save me?
My tummy hurts. I can't get to sleep at night. I can't concentrate at school. It feels like I have a volcano inside of me, getting hotter and hotter.
Sometimes it might help to talk to someone about our feelings, but it can be hard to find the right person.
Do you think your mum might know something's wrong?
My mum has her own problems. She's not very well. I've been looking after her.
What about telling Miss Evelyn?
She's always busy.
What about your sister?
I wanted to talk to her, but how could I say it?
Sometimes it can be difficult to know what to say.
Can I talk to you?
I've been having a really hard time lately. Please help me. I'm really struggling.
If someone wants to tell you something, how could you be a good listener?
If you're listening to someone, you can lean forward or sit side by side. Make them feel comfortable.
Always listen to them.
Give them your time and attention.
If you're a friend, you might not know what you could do, but you can help the person find an adult who can help.
Let's see how Jay got on.
Hi, I'm Jack. I don't go to school with Jay, but I go to swimming with Jay. It was me she decided to talk to, and I was worried about her. I told our coach because I thought she know the best thing to do.
I can see now that my problems are too big for me to deal with on my own. Other people have ideas and experience. There are lots of choices. I just had to think it through. Talking to someone didn't magic all the bad things away, but it did start to help me to change things, and it was good not to feel I was on my own. I'm 11 years old, and I realized if I wanted things to get better, I just needed a bit of help.
If your feelings are getting too big to cope with on your own, talking to someone you trust might really help.
So a few main messages to take from that clip: talking, listening, and self-care. These three things are likely to help your young person with a variety of challenges that they may face throughout their childhood, but especially important for their emotional well-being and their mental health. So let's start with talking and listening. Firstly, be aware that your child may not directly come to you to talk about how they're feeling. They might need you to approach them about it. So try and do this in a really neutral environment where they don't have to look directly into your eyes. So think about when you're busy doing something else, like cooking or driving. It's really likely to take the pressure off of that situation. You could start by telling them what you've noticed. For example, I've noticed you haven't seemed yourself recently. Is everything okay? It's likely that when you first mention this to them, they will tell you that yes, of course, everything is absolutely fine. But planting the seed is important. They then will know that they can come and talk to you when they are ready to do so. You could also remind them of those other people that they could speak to if they don't want to talk to you directly. Is there a family member, maybe another family friend that they could talk to? And if and when they do come to talk to you, try your best not to jump to fixing it. This can be really, really difficult as a parent, as you just want to make everything better for them. Instead, it's going to be much more beneficial for your young person if you listen to what they're saying and validate how they're feeling. So saying things like, that sounds really tough, and thank you for telling me that, I'm sorry that you're feeling down, really will make them feel heard. And try and give them a little bit of control. So asking them if there's anything that you can do to help them, for example. But again, remembering not jumping in and fixing it. It might just be that telling you how they feel really has lifted a huge weight off of their shoulders. And just to note here, if you ever do become seriously concerned for their mental health, you might, of course, need to take action without their consent. But do try and involve them in any conversations. So if you need to speak to school, for example, you could run it past them first with what you're thinking of saying. And if you feel that they need to see a doctor, run it past them first if they want to speak or they'd rather that you speak on their behalf. Back over to Emma.
Thanks, Chloe. So the third thing really to take from that video that we saw was the self-care and nurture part of it. So self-care is a phrase that's kind of bandied around a lot these days, isn't it? But for good reason, it's really important. And self-care is more than just a bubble bath and a candle. It encompasses lots of different areas that can be thought of as different building blocks for our good emotional well-being. So we're going to start by taking you right back to the basics of nurturing your children. So we need to make sure that our children know that they are loved, that they are safe, they are understood, and they're supported. Absolute basics. But how do they know this? How are they sure? So you could do this by verbally reminding them, communicating with them, and listening to them, as we've discussed. But how else could we show them that they are loved, safe, and supported? So maybe we could leave them notes in their lunchbox. You know, just a little post-it saying, have a great day, or I'm thinking about you during your test. A little love you text, or something like a chocolate bar on their pillow could go a really long way. In terms of feeling understood, try and remain really non-judgmental when they come and tell you things. And that includes things about their friends. So it's back to listening. If they tell you about a friend who's recently been excluded from school, try not to make the negative comment that you want to make along the lines of, whoa, what do their parents think? They must be really disappointed. If we're making a comment like this, it's likely to feel them leaving worried that if anything similar was to happen to them, it will make them less likely to want to talk to you about what they're struggling with because they think you're going to judge them. Like the clip we showed you of the family at the dining table, you really do need to listen or you're not going to know what's going on in your children's lives. Home needs to feel like that safe place where you can escape from your day, where you've got a warm duvet, food is comforting, and someone is going to give you a hug if you need it. We also want to think about being active, these basic needs, and identity. So being active really does release chemicals. So these chemicals are called endorphins, which researchers found can really improve our well-being. So we're not necessarily talking about training for marathons here. You know, walking, dancing, playing football, even getting up and really stretching can help. Encourage your children to move their bodies. And this is where you can really role model that self-care. Instead of reaching for a glass of wine when you're stressed, role model taking the dog out or making a dancing TikTok with them. And if we go right back to basics, with our children, we're always encouraged, aren't we, to think, is it good enough? What we do doesn't have to be perfect. That perfect parent doesn't exist. We want to be thinking, is their diet good enough? We're never expecting to see 5 fruit and veg eaten every day with a solid 8 hours of sleep, no screen time, and 2 hours of physical exercise in the fresh air. That would be amazing, but you're not looking for perfection. Are your children having at least some nutritious meals? Are they having at least some fresh air during the day? And are they eating something other than jam sandwiches and crisps? Identity. Well, this is an area, isn't it, that we don't think about so often maybe, but it's still very important to help us all feel well. And it's an area that often feels quite muddy as our children are getting older. So help them to discover that identity. Find out what they're passionate about. What do they like doing? Can you help them to do more of this by supporting those interests? Maybe research local clubs, drop them off for their first session. And this is where the internet can be helpful because you can research things that you don't know about together. Finding out together is a great way of both of you investing in somebody's passion. And connection. Well, we've spoken a lot about conversations, but also try and think about other ways to connect with your children. Could you arrange a family games night once a month, or all start watching a reality show together with a rule of no phones allowed whilst that programme is on? Watching TV or YouTube is a great way of starting those kind of what would you do conversations. And watching some of the clips from tonight and our previous sessions are also great conversation openers. Family meals eaten together every night around a dining table are a great idea, but really, we've said before, sitting in the same room, eating at the same time in front of the TV is still time that's spent together. And we just need a bit of balance, don't we, in our lives? A really important area as primary school comes to an end for some of your children. You know, when they start secondary school, those academic pressures can really start to ramp up. Reminding them of the importance of finding balance between schoolwork and things they enjoy doing, thinking about their downtime. Remind them that SAT results are not everything. And finally, back to those famous self-care words. Try and remember to role model self-care. You know, that safety briefing before you take off on your holidays on an aeroplane is always about putting your own oxygen mask on before your child, and that's really important. Bringing up children is really, really hard work. You need all the help you can get. And there is no such thing as the perfect parent. So hopefully you may have heard something tonight that's going to make it easier. It's that love, that nurture, that's really taking it back to basics sometimes, as well as all of the awareness that we're telling you about. The fact that you came along tonight shows how much you are trying to be the parent that you and your children need. And Chloe's just going to give you some signposting, some further support for you to take away tonight.
Thank you, Emma. So I'm just going to talk through these different services, and do feel free to take a screenshot of these should you need them. So starting with Shout at the top. Shout is a 24/7 text line which is totally free, confidential and anonymous, and also won't show on a phone bill. So Shout can really be contacted about anything that is bothering the person contacting them, such as feeling anxious, having a relationship breakdown, bullying or self-harm and suicide. The goal of the conversation is to help the person reach a calm and safe place with a plan to help themselves going forwards. This service is not just for young people. Anyone of any age can use this service. Then we have Childline. Any young person up until the age of 19 can use this service, and Childline operates 24/7. Also on their website, they have the option of talking one-to-one with a counsellor. Then we have Parent Talk. Parent Talk is a great service from Action for Children. Lots of resources to support your child at every stage of their development, and a chat messaging service for that confidential support. Then we have Young Minds. So Young Minds has a parent helpline, and that helpline is for all of you. They offer advice and support to parents who are worried about their child's mental health, and they support parents who have children anywhere of any age up until the age of 25. And they are open 9:30 till 4 p.m. Monday to Friday. And then again, they also have the online supports. We talk a lot about the negatives of the internet, but if you do need any questions answering, Google. Try and stick to known and recognised pages such as those we have suggested, or the NHS or the NSPCC, but do research and educate yourselves. Parenting absolutely does not come with a manual, and it's okay to not know what to do. So thank you all so much for coming along to this session tonight. It's been absolutely great having you all here, and we really do hope that you can all take away something useful from this session. Do try and talk to your family about the things we've discussed tonight, and it may not feel like much, but just knocking on your child's door and popping your head in to say goodnight really will make the world of difference. Remember, you will never get this time with them again, so do try and enjoy some of it. Children are totally amazing, but as we do keep saying, parenting really can be so hard. Look after yourselves too. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So take some time out when you can to look after your own well-being. Also, if you would like a CPD certificate for the session, please do email Claire, whose address is on screen now. Please do follow us on our Instagram and Facebook. Our handle is at the bottom of this screen. We'll keep you up to date on there with any upcoming events or local services. But before we do let you all go, if you do have a few minutes, could we please ask you to complete a short poll about these sessions? These polls can be accessed by scanning this QR code, and it really helps us to get feedback on these sessions and potentially secure funding for more sessions in the future. But to make this easier, can we please just add that you don't add any comments into the chat, as the link will also be posted within the chat. So I'm going to say a final goodbye to you all now. Thank you so much for coming. Once you've left us some feedback, please do feel free to pop any additional comments in the chat. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again at some point soon. So good night from me, and thank you again. Goodbye.